Today's Dallas Cowboys report is presented by Magic Spoon. This stuff tastes like the cereal that we all grew up with, but it's actually good for us. It's healthy, it's got no sugar, it's low in carbs, high in protein. It's fantastic. We'll tell you more about them later on in today's video, but you can save $5 off when you go to magicspoon.com/Cowboys. Let's hit some training camp battles then here for the Cowboys today. Offense-only edition. We'll talk about defense later on. First up for me, the number one on offense is the starting tight end battle. Who is it going to be between Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz? It will be one of those two guys who start, quote-unquote, at the tight end position. Now, my suspicion here is that we'll see plenty of both players throughout the season in different roles, different opportunities. They'll both play. They've both earned, I think, the opportunity to have a key role on the offense. So before I go too far in depth here, a question for you guys. Pick a tight end. I'm letting you guys once again type in BJ. What a time to be alive. Type in BJ if you want it to be Blake Jarwin as the lead tight end, or type in DS for Dalton Schultz. Now, it's never fair to only box score scout, but I think that the stats here help indicate what type of role these guys are. Schultz has been healthier than Blake Jarwin because Jarwin got hurt last year, so he has more catches, more yards as well. But Blake Jarwin has offered more big plays. His average is about 2 yards higher on fewer catches, of course, more touchdowns, a longer play as well. Now, part of that comes from the role that Schultz played last year as almost the underneath safety valve, more or less, for mostly Andy Dalton. Jarwin has offered a bit more in the seam stretching area. Now, his 2020 limited due to a torn ACL. I am assuming he comes back fully healthy and back to the guy that we were hyped about having a breakout year last season. In the end, it was Schultz who had the breakout year after a very rough start, full of drops, some ill-timed ones as well, but he finished with 63 grabs for 615 yards. Now, I guarantee you his numbers will be lower. Cooper, Lamb, and Gallup will still get more receptions than Schultz does, and in theory, the Cowboys might not have to throw it quite as often because they'll be a better football team this year. But the tight end battle, at least for me, that's the number one I'm watching for on the offensive side of the ball. Now, speaking of the defensive side, do you guys want a defensive training camp battles video? That's the one that intrigues me the most because there's so many spots up for grabs. Shoot, it might be a half-hour video. If you do, share this one. I need more shares. The numbers are down. Everything's not going great for the Cowboys report right now. So help me out and show the bosses that you do want a defensive camp battles video by simply sharing this one on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. All right, next up is the backup quarterback position, which is very intriguing to me, and hopefully not a position that the Cowboys ever have to use this year outside of maybe some kneel-down situations. Everyone and their brother knows Dak Prescott's the guy, but it's the backup quarterback spot that is murky and you might even say concerning. I think Garrett Gilbert is the favorite to be the starter, or the backup, excuse me. In his career, he hasn't played all that much. He doesn't even have 300 career yards. But he was a nice, pleasant surprise in his lone start last year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a positive thing in the end. But then there's also Cooper Rush, who has just constantly found his way to hanging out on the Cowboys roster, went to the Giants briefly, is now back. He's not good. There is really no way around it. We saw Ben DiNucci last year as well, the 7th-round pick from James Madison, who he was put in an impossible situation, and DiNucci was not very good in that particular game. But maybe this year will be different. So pick a backup quarterback for me. Who would you rather have out there? Type GG for Garrett Gilbert, type CR for Cooper Rush, or type in BD for Ben DiNucci. Plenty of options out there. Or you can type in O for other. There's, Robert Griffin III. Maybe they bring in Brett Hundley. Not a bunch of great options if we're being honest here. As mentioned, today's show is made possible by our friends over at Magic Spoon. I had more or less cut breakfast out of my life because, well, the tasty stuff was not good for me, and the good stuff for me was not very tasty. Then we found Magic Spoon. Get $5 off your first order at magicspoon.com/Cowboys. Tons of flavors. They all taste great, by the way. And They are high in protein, 13 grams of protein for you, making your life a little bit better from that perspective. It's also very low in carbs, 4 grams of net carbs per bowl. And oh, by the way, it's tasty as all get out. Tastes like the cereal that I know many of you guys grew up with, but isn't going to rot your teeth. Will help you with the dad bod if you're a little bit older like me. So go get $5 off your first order at magicspoon.com/Cowboys. A clickable link will be in the comments section and in the description for you. Let's head now to the wide receiver position. I don't really consider the top 3 a battle at all. It's in whatever order you want it to be. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. It's the 4 through, I think 6. I don't think they carry 5 or 7. I think 6 is the magic number here. That's the stuff that's up for grabs. And this is a very intriguing battle between Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown, Simi Fehoko, Malik Turner, TJ Vasher, Aaron Parker, Brandon Smith, Osiris Mitchell, Brennan Eagles, and even Reggie Davis and Johnny Dixon. Now, I'm not going to mention every player in depth, but I want to start with Cedric Wilson. Because Wilson, I think, talent-wise, is wide receiver 4, or at least the blend of talent and provenness is wide receiver 4. But the Cowboys could save some significant money if they were to cut Cedric Wilson. Now, that puts them in a tricky spot in terms of backup punt returner behind CeeDee Lamb, but Cowboy loves saving money. But I think Wilson is not a lock, but closer to being safe. I think the same thing might be true of Simi Fehoko, the wide receiver from Stanford. Now, he battled a little bit of minor injury late in minicamp OTAs. He should be fine for training camp, though. I like his size. I liked him a lot coming out of Stanford. My concern, though, is it's a tough competition here. If he does not impress and, most importantly, show he can contribute on special teams, really more of a gunner than a kick return man or punt return man, there might be a bit of an issue there for Fehoko. I like him, but he's going to have to earn a spot this year. Noah Brown has earned a spot for several years in a row because of his special teams value. That is something the Cowboys are valuing more than they did under Jason Garrett with Mike McCarthy. That's why they went out and hired John Fossil, right? So they brought him back this offseason. Not very much guaranteed money. Noah Brown, much like Wilson and even Fehoko, are not guaranteed a roster spot. I believe that those last 3 players are the favorites to make the roster if the Cowboys carry 6. But they're not the only ones in a competition there. In fact, there are 4 undrafted free agent wide receivers the Cowboys brought in. And there's a trend, for the most part, amongst these guys. Brandon Smith from Iowa got the highest guarantee with his UDFA contract. That's noteworthy. TJ Vasher, Osiris Mitchell, and Brennan Eagles are all big receivers. There's a theme there. Now, I think those guys, especially the ones not named Smith, are probably more practice squad players, kind of like Aaron Parker has been. But they could impress in camp, and preseason they didn't have that last year. Gives them an opportunity to make somebody lose their job and earn a roster spot this year. So what do you guys think? What is the top training camp battle on offense this year? I went with tight end, but I'm curious what you guys have to say. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down and get your votes in. To another starting spot here, one of the very few that are maybe open for this Cowboys team. That is at the left guard position, and there are 2 players in the mix, Connor Williams and Connor McGovern, the battle of the Connors that I said I wanted to see last year in camp, and then there wasn't the normal camp, and it kind of never materialized there. Connor Williams has been the better player in the NFL. He's not nearly as bad as some of you guys try to make him out to be. But he hasn't been an elite offensive guard. That's okay. He's been an average to above average starting left guard. He's also now in the last year of his contract. He is the favorite to keep this job. I am totally down for competition. Competition never hurt anybody, and it's probably a good thing for both Connors. But I think McGovern's role this year might look a little bit more like the Joe Looney role from last year, where he's your top backup center, at least what it should have been last year. Should have started Biotish. Anyway, top backup center, top backup guard. He's the top interior offensive lineman. But we're a show for the people. So get your votes in. Who do you want to be this team's left guard? Type W for Connor Williams or type in M for Connor McGovern. Get your votes in right now. Let's stick on the offensive line now. How about some backup offensive tackles? This is an intriguing back of the roster situation because there's a numbers game going on here that does not add up. All right? Tyron Smith and Lael Collins, if they are the starters and healthy, which I hope, are guaranteed roster spots. Right now, if one gets hurt, this changes everything. But it's the backup situation that intrigues me. Ty Nsekhe, Josh Ball, Brandon Knight, Terrence Steele were all relatively high draft picks and or have started games recently in the NFL. To have 6 guys at tackle, that's a lot to carry, and I'm cheating, as you'll see here in a second. So I'll start with Nsekhe. Swing tackle player. He's old. You could save around $1.25 million if you cut him, but I think the Cowboys plan on making him the swing tackle this year. So that would, in theory, put you at 3 players already guaranteed roster spots, but he's probably more safe than anything else. I think what the main battle is going to be is the one involving Terrence Steele. Now, he was pressed into duty as an undrafted free agent, rookie right tackle starting games. That's very rare and, in general, not what you want if you're the Cowboys. And although he began the year really bad, he did get better down the stretch. And yes, he's not someone you want starting, but folks, look around the room. Look around the NFL. The tackle depth is terrible. There is a massive gap. Terrence Steele is worthy of being on at least an NFL roster. The Cowboys? Maybe, maybe not, but he's worthy. Just like Brandon Knight, who, by the way, got outplayed by Terrence Steele for the back half of last season. Knight was a bit banged up himself, had to gut through, I think it was a knee issue. He was never quite right after the beginning of the year. His production per PFF reflects all of that, but again, he started games, also a former undrafted free agent. But from an investment standpoint, Cowboys put more into Josh Ball, made him a 4th-round pick. He's probably going to make this team. That's tackle 4 if you include Ty Nsekhe. Now, if Josh Ball really impresses, which we'll see about camp, maybe that could, kick Nsekhe off the roster. You go with Ball and the 2 younger guys. But I think for this year, he's probably more of a stash on the back end of your roster player. Now, that's 6 guys we've mentioned, and that doesn't even include other tackles. I'll include Mitch Hyatt, Isaac Alarcon, and Eric Smith. Now, Alarcon's been getting some work at guard. I'm listing Hyatt and Smith on this guard depth chart when we've gone to it because I don't have a room on our graphics to put 9 offensive tackles. That's just not how it works, to put all the offensive linemen on there at once. So several of these guys are getting cut. A couple of them might make the practice squad, but that numbers game at tackle is certainly one to watch out for in camp this year. Now, Cowboys camp going to Oxnard, and we're going to keep you guys covered on everything going on this offseason, in this training camp, this preseason. The news, the rumors, the winners, the losers, all of it. If you want to stay updated with what's going on for Cowboys training camp this year, hit that big red button right now. We will end back where we started, tight ends. This time, the backup tight end position. Of course, we mentioned Jarwin and Schultz, but tight end 3 and maybe tight end 4 are up for grabs. Blake Bell is gone. He's now back with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Cowboys have brought in Jeremy Sprinkle. The veteran tight end, cheap contract, not guaranteed anything, mind you, in terms of making the roster. Probably the favorite for tight end 3. He's played more football games than these other tight ends on the roster. But the Cowboys also have a player who made the roster last year. Now, Sean McEwen didn't really make any impact in terms of offense. There were no stats on the offensive side of the board, so I'll put DNP there because special teams is whatever. So McEwen made the roster last year, a bit of a surprise. The Cowboys, in the end, went with several tight ends. They went with 4 tight ends, as opposed to carrying a fullback. And I think that matters here. I think that should be noted, that the Cowboys last season didn't carry a fullback. They've got 2 on the roster right now, Shewa Olanalua and Nick Ralston. So it's not just the backup tight end position that's worth keeping an eye out for. It's the 4th tight end, whether that's McEwen or Sprinkle, against Nick Eubanks, Artavius Lynn from TCU, and also Shewa Olanalua and Nick Ralston. That last tight end / fullback spot is very much up for grabs this year.